Hey, what's going on, guys? Realm Gaming here, back another video. In today's episode, we'll be taking a look at the top 3 healers for pushing keys in Mythic Plus. Before we get started, please consider smashing that like and subscribe button. We have a brand new Patreon as well. If you guys want to help support the channel, you can check that out in the description of the video. All right, enough of the fluff. Let's get into it. Coming in at the number 1 spot is going to be probably everybody was expecting this one, but Restoration Shaman. Resto Shaman has been king the entire season, and nothing has really changed in the 11.05 patch. In fact, Restoration Shaman has actually gotten even stronger with this patch and is showing no signs of slowing down. With 11.05, the biggest change they received was Coalescing Water. This has helped alleviate some of the mana issues with the totemic tree, and this allows the player to cast Chain Heal much more freely without tapping out their mana pool. Now the question becomes, just why is Restoration Shaman so strong right now? For people who may be new to the game or just healing in general, Restoration Shaman has been more of a burst healer specialization historically. They have an array of utility, have great spot healing, and insanely strong cooldowns. So Restoration Shaman pretty much fits the bill for any sort of group composition. One of the main pros for them this season is their Poison Cleansing Totem. There are a ton of poisons to remove in this dungeon rotation, including the new Xal'atath's Bargain Affix Devour. Poison Cleanse will just completely remove this affix by just simply pressing Poison Cleanse on cooldown. So on Devour weeks, make sure you're bringing at least one specialization of Shaman. It doesn't have to be Restoration. Make sure that you can just pretty much negate that affix entirely. They also have access to an insane amount of utility, including the new Mastery buff Sky Fury, as well as the iconic Bloodlust ability. One thing that really separates Resto Shaman from the rest of the healers is their totems. And they have 2 really great group saving totems, just 2 totems that can save the party from a wipe. So the first being Spirit Link Totem to help mitigate any of that bursty damage, sharing that health pool between all those different targets, and you can funnel a bunch of healing into one, and that's just kind of dispersed between everybody within the link. Then also their Earth Elemental Totem, just in case your tank dies, this is going to give your group just enough time to squeeze out a battle res. So Restoration Shaman isn't necessarily the best at any one thing, but it is near the best at pretty much everything, which is why they secured the number 1 spot on our list. Then as a Restoration Shaman, you're going to focus on very powerful AoE healing abilities and totems. You're going to be using Riptide on cooldown for that efficient single target healing, and that's going to set you up for additional healing through tidal waves. You'll be placing your healing rain pretty much on your tank and melee group at all times. Then anybody you're not healing with your healing rain, you can rely on Chain Heal to kind of bounce around your group and pick off any targets who might be standing far away. You also have totems such as Healing Stream Totem and Healing Tide Totem that's going to offer that essential burst healing and that sustained healing. And also just the fact that we're able to get chain heals through lively totems from our Healing Stream Totem just makes the button so much more impactful to press now. Outside of that, just make sure you're keeping your Water Shield and Earth Shields on yourself and on the tank. And for any emergency situations, you can always rely on that Spirit Link Totem that we talked about, as well as Ascendance for that emergency burst healing. In our number 2 spot comes Discipline Priest. This priest has seen some buffs in recent patches, but nothing specific, unfortunately, to 11.05. At the start of the expansion, Discipline Priest was really struggling in the healing throughput department. Thankfully, that was caught pretty early in the expansion, and they did receive some big buffs to their atonement healing. This priest is great at countering expected damage, but that requires some upfront knowledge before the damage actually happens to be able to prepare for it. Then one of the other main issues with this priest is their mobility. While really only having access to things like Angelic Feather, they're typically a little bit more difficult to navigate around all the boss mechanics, and it can be difficult to get yourself out of a sticky situation. They also struggle a little bit in the mob control department. They don't have access to a great interrupt, but a stun rather, and then not having any AoE crowd control does limit some of their play. This priest is also a little bit difficult to play. It requires some coordination with your party to use specific spells, such as pain suppression in key moments. Then also messing up an atonement window can feel pretty terrible. However, most of that is made up with their power infusion that they bring to the group. Typically, pairing it up with one of your allies' big damaging spells can give a significant boost in damage, and is typically why we see Discipline Priest in high Mythic Plus tier lists. It's just quite simply all the damage that they bring to the group. As long as Discipline Priest is able to keep the party alive, by default, they're almost always the top tier choice. Now for the playstyle with Discipline Priest, you'll be focusing on balancing damage output with healing, as Discipline's unique atonement mechanic heals allies when you deal damage. So you'll apply atonement strategically using spells like Power Word Shield and Power Word Radiance to maintain uptime on multiple allies. Then from there, you can use penance both offensively and defensively based on the situation, and maximize the impact of Schism and Mind Blast to amplify your healing throughput and damage. You do want to be proactive with cooldowns like Rapture and Pain Suppression to mitigate damage on critical targets. So if you do fear that damage is coming, feel free to send those cooldowns. It's better to use them early rather than later. For the number 3 spot on our list, we have Preservation Evoker. So Preservation Evoker is a unique healing specialization that really focuses on stacked AoE healing and utilizing specific combos to pull off insane healing numbers. They're pretty much the kings of healing throughput, but that's easier said than done to pull off. And the reason that Preservation Evoker takes this top spot on our list is mainly due to the throughput. That's going to be from both a damage and a healing standpoint. So if Discipline Priest normally takes the cake for damage for healers, Preservation normally comes in at the number 2 spot. Then in terms of healing throughput, one of the things that makes Preservation Evoker so strong at high keys is their percent damage reduction and their percent damage healing. For example, we can take a look at both Reversion and Rewind. Both of these abilities take a percentage of the damage done and then convert it into healing. Meaning the higher keys you run, the more damage taken, the more healing done, getting into pretty insane numbers. Now, one of the biggest issues facing Preservation Evoker is similar to Discipline Priest. They're just kind of difficult to play in a pug environment. It really requires your team to be stacked up and just seems to perform better with melee compositions who can stand within your lackluster range. Now, that being said, I don't want to scare you away from the specialization. They have some of the best mobility on this list, including some of the best crowd control with abilities like Tail Swipe and Wing Buffet. They also bring fantastic group utility through their Blessing of the Bronze and their Fury of the Aspects Lust ability. And very similar to Discipline Priest, with Preservation Evoker, you'll kind of focus on proactive healing and the effective use of your echoes and your reversions to spread heals across the group. You'll normally be doing 1 charge of Dream Breath to get that big heal over time effect on all your allies. Then from there, you can leverage your Spirit Bloom for some powerful burst AoE healing. You'll also want to prioritize Essence Management, making the most of your Temporal Anomaly to apply shields and using Reversion as a nice spot heal and heal over time effect. Then finally, keep an eye on your positioning, as Preservation Evokers seem to excel in that close to mid-range sort of healing playstyle. Alright guys, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking, subscribing to the channel. We also have a Patreon page in the description if you guys want to help and support our work. We'll see you all in the next one.